What's going on, ladies, gents, and kids of all ages? It is Eric coming back at you once again from the Nerd Cave, and we've been having one episode a week recently because, as you know, I keep getting sick. My son keeps making me sick. Loving that. But hopefully I will be getting well soon, and we will be back to 2 uploads a week. But I have a deck today that I am very excited to talk about. It is a princess deck that you might not expect. You saw the thumbnail, so you know the color combination I'm talking about, and it is maybe not the combination that most people expect for princesses, especially if it wants to be meta relevant. But I went 3-in-1 with this deck, all into meta choices, actually all into steel somehow. I went against Amber Steel Aggro twice and Amethyst Steel Dumbo twice, so kind of weird. Surprisingly didn't go against Blurple at all, so that was nice. I do think the deck is actually pretty well teched for Blurple, but I didn't get to play that particular matchup. But as always, got to give a big shout out to the Patreons for making these giveaways on the channel possible. As always, we are edging forward to another giveaway, and we will be giving away another booster box when we get there. So if you haven't subscribed, now is a great time to do so. The more the subscriber count increases, the more giveaways we do, and the more you support the Patreon, the more we are able to give away. So if you want to support the Patreon, there is a link in the description. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and talk about Ruby Amber Princess Aggro. So the first card we're playing in the 1-drop slot is going to be 3 Mulan Injured Soldier, a 1-cost inkable 2/3 stat line, questing for 1, enters play with 2 damage on it, so it's going to essentially be a 2/1, but it is a great heal target for another card that we're going to talk about. And it is worth noting with Mulan Injured Soldier, she is a princess. Speaking of princesses in the 1-drop slot, the card everybody's going crazy for, we have 4 Aurora Holding Court, a 1-cost inkable 1/2 stat line, questing for 1. Well, whenever this character quests, you pay 1 less for the next princess or queen character that you play. That is important because we are definitely playing both in this deck, so Aurora ends up being very, very good. And just to round it out nicely, we have 1 more princess in the 1-drop slot in 4 Moana Self-Taught Sailor, a 1-cost inkable 3/2 stat line, questing for 1. With this character can't challenge unless you have a captain character in play, which obviously can be a bit of a drawback. We actually aren't playing any captain characters in this deck, but she can be a really good way to put pressure on the board in the early game against decks that may not be playing options like Fire the Cannons that are going to be able to do direct removal, and in those instances where you are playing in something less favorable, she's inkable. Last card in the 1-cost slot, we have a card you know and you love, a 1-cost uninkable 1/4 stat line, questing for 2. With whenever it quests, your opponent is going to reveal the top card of their deck. If it's a character, it goes in their hand. If it's not, it goes on the bottom. In some matchups, that can end up being pretty good because there are still some decks that are playing a lot of non-character cards. But in other matchups, Daisy Duck is not something you end up really wanting to quest with until you're coming into the end turns of the game or until you've gotten control of the field. So we've cut down to 2. I think in the past, in an aggro meta, Daisy Duck was an automatic 4 of, but in the current meta, the way things look, I think 2 of is a little bit more comfortable for me personally for this list. Moving over to the 2-cost slot, a card that has all of a sudden gotten really good. We have 4 Vanellope von Schweetz Spunky Speedster, a 2-cost inkable 3/1 stat line, which is very important, questing for 1, and she is evasive, so if they don't have that direct removal to deal with her, she is going to be keeping those Dumbos at bay, keeping them from exerting. Obviously some of those other characters can exert, but we also have ways to kind of fix our challenge with Vanellope and potentially push her up to a 4. And talking about our first queen in the deck, we have 3 Queen of Hearts Impulsive Ruler, a 2-cost inkable 2/2 stat line, questing for 1, with Rush, which is super, super important. There are a lot of 1/2 stat line characters, or just characters with a weak defensive stat in general, that Queen of Hearts can definitely take advantage of and put you back in the driver's seat in the early game, particularly obviously into those 1/2 stat line characters. Challenging with her feels great because you are going to get a 2 for 1. At the very least, you put damage on a second character or eat up one of their removal cards. And our second queen is also going to be a Queen of Hearts. This time it's Queen of Hearts Losing Her Temper, a card that I've thought is fantastic since it came out. She is a 2-cost inkable 1/4 stat line, questing for 1, with, while this character has damage, she gets +3 strength, so she has to have damage to get that +3 strength activated. But when she does, she's basically a reverse Lawrence, and she's super good. Now we'll move over to our secret spice on the deck. We do have 4 Queen Sensor Core, a 2-cost inkable item this time, the only item in the deck. Not a lot of people playing item removal. Items aren't as significant in the meta right now, but it's a 2-cost inkable item with, at the start of your turn, if you have a princess or queen character in play, gain 1 lore. Right off the bat, that's super good. I can tell you right now, we are playing 41 total princess or queen characters, so there's going to be lots of potential targets for that. And then you can exert 2 and reveal the top card of your deck. If it is a princess or queen character, you get to put it into your hand. Otherwise, you just put it back on top of your deck, so you're still going to end up having to draw that card, and you're going to have revealed it and know what it is. And if it isn't a princess or queen character, you may be telegraphing some stuff to your opponent in terms of questing with something like Daisy Duck. But again, Daisy Duck isn't as relevant in the meta, but 41 potential hit targets for that ability means it's going to be hitting more often than it isn't. One of the cards we're not going to be pulling off the top deck with Queen Sensor Core is going to be Rapunzel's Tower, a 2-cost inkable location, 1 to move in, 8 willpower, which is fantastic on a 2-cost, and characters get +3 willpower when they're here. So you're making those Daisy Ducks 1/7, you're making those Vanellope's 3/4s, which that in and of itself is pretty funny when you're getting them down for 2 and they are evasive. You could potentially put them in a position where they can take a favorable trade into Dumbo and stay alive. So Rapunzel's Tower makes for some really funny play lines with this deck. Speaking of a card that gets huge when she is at Rapunzel's Tower, we have 4 Juliana Madrigal, a 3-cost inkable 1/4 stat line questing for 1. When you play this character, you may remove up to 2 damage from chosen character. If you remove damage this way, you may draw a card. So you do have to remove damage. It is noteworthy. Not that it's something you're typically going to want to take advantage of unless your back is really against the wall, but you can heal an opponent's character. Unlike Rapunzel, you don't have to target your own character, and as long as you heal something, you're still going to get to draw that card. It doesn't let them draw. So keep that in mind if you need to. And obviously those Mulans on turn 4 or beyond are fantastic targets for this. You throw down the Mulan for 1, you throw down the Juliana, and you heal it right away, and you go ahead and get that card draw. But she is going to help you keep that hand fueled when you don't have some of your alternative card draw like Queen's Sensor Core. Next up in the 3-cost slot, we're on 3 Tiana Restaurant Owner, a 3-cost uninkable 1/4 stat line questing for 2. With whenever a character of yours is challenged while this character is exerted, the challenging character gets -3 strength this turn unless their controller pays 3 ink. So they can still challenge in, but they need to have quite a strong character to be able to deal damage with it. Tiana's ability is fantastic. She does quest for 2, and her willpower makes her a little bit harder to deal with, especially when you can put her behind a bodyguard, and really anything other than that Blurple matchup where you might just lose your bodyguard to Into the Unknown anyway, or might lose your Tiana to Into the Unknown. So keep that in mind. In the Blurple matchup, can be a little awkward. You're going to want to definitely bait out those Into the Unknowns before trying to get that Tiana play line going, but she is really good, especially if you can drop her on 2 with Aurora. Speaking of fantastic cards to drop on 2 with Aurora, we have another new card from Fabled in the Queen Conceited Ruler, a 3-cost inkable character, 2/4 stat line questing for 1 with support, which is fantastic. Being able to get support to some of those 1 strength characters or even 2 strength characters makes them much stronger. Being able to have her down and they're having your opponent go, oh hey, I'm not worried about support, and then you throw down one of those queens that has rush, you quest in with this, you give that rush, and all of a sudden you have a 4 strength challenger, which is nothing to shake a stick at. And her second ability is also very good in Royal Summons. At the start of your turn, you may choose and discard a princess or queen character card to return a character card from your discard to your hand. I think it's really noteworthy with this card, and it's not something a lot of people think about or read far enough into to really realize, and that is that you can return any character card from your discard. This isn't trading a princess or queen for a princess or queen. I can take back those few characters in my deck that aren't princesses or queens, or like those Julietas, be able to go ahead and heal again and continue to draw additional cards. So the queen, super good. And like I mentioned, you could potentially get her down on 2 with those Auroras. Another card I think is really good in the current meta is going to be Moana Determined Explorer. She is uninkable, but her stat line I think really makes up for it. She is a 3-cost inkable 3/4 stat line questing for 2. No other abilities, but she is of course a princess, so she is going to be able to trigger off of those Auroras and come down on 2 also. I didn't set out to have a bunch of Moanas in this deck, but there's a lot of good Moanas in the meta right now. So we also have In moving over to the 4-cost slot, 3 Moana Island Explorers, a 4-cost inkable 4/3 stat line questing for 1 with evasive, which of course is incredibly important. She does have a favorable stat line to be able to go ahead and deal with those genies, as well as to be able to at least trade with a Dumbo and deal with a lot of those other potential evasive threats. And whenever this character challenges another character, doesn't have to banish them, doesn't obviously can challenge non-evasive characters, so challenging into anything. Another chosen character of yours is going to get +3 strength this turn, which is super huge, especially if you go ahead and start stacking something like that. So you go Moana, go ahead and give +3 strength to something like the Queen, quest in, and then throw 5 strength onto something else, and you have all of a sudden maybe like a 6/4 Daisy Duck. So you can do some kind of funny stuff with it. You can even go ahead and give that strength to one of those characters that has no strength that your opponent's not going to be concerned about challenging in, like Minnie Mouse Daring Defender, a 4-cost inkable 0/8 stat line questing for 1. So obviously 0 strength, so you throw that 3 strength on her with Moana, or you throw that +2 on her with those queens, or you stack those up and get her really kind of crazy pumped up. All of a sudden you're blasting out a character, putting some damage onto her, and triggering her ability. She is a bodyguard, which is definitely worth mentioning, can be really good again other than that Blarple matchup, unless you've drawn out those Into the Unknowns already. Bodyguard can be really good in pretty much any other matchup, super good against the steel matchup. This character gets +1 strength for each 1 damage on her, so she can take up to 7 damage before she's getting banished on that 8th. And obviously, like I mentioned, giving her +3 strength or +2 strength or a combination of both is going to make her able to take a challenge even though she is a 0, and then she's going to be able to have some damage to deal if a character decides they want a challenge into her. Moving over to the 5-cost slot and the last few cards in the deck, we're on 2 Beast Gracious Prince, a 4-cost inkable 5/4 stat line questing for 1 with your princess characters get +1 strength and +1 willpower. This is a card I wasn't super hot on. It wasn't doing me well in a lot of matchups. I was definitely considering cutting it outright, and then I got into a matchup where it just fixed it was against Amber Steel Aggro, where it just fixed every single challenge that I had on the board. Like being able to give my Tianas in that matchup, I had 2 Tianas out, so I was in a great position in terms of my opponent being able to challenge me. Being able to give them +1 strength and give my other princesses +1 strength as well put me in the perfect board position to be able to take control back of the matchup by like a couple lore and win it out. So the Beast can be good when he's good, but sometimes he's just going to be ink. Probably our primary path to card draw is going to be Queen Sensing Weakness, a 5-cost inkable 4/3 stat line questing for 1, shifting for 2, which is fantastic because you're dropping those other queens on 2. And on 3 she can shift. You have a lot of 1-drops in this deck, so you can shift her and also drop a 1-drop in a lot of instances, and potentially still have some other characters out that are going to be able to take advantage of challenging and triggering her ability right away, which is whenever one of your characters challenges another character, you may draw a card. Again, doesn't have to banish them, just has to challenge them. So even if you're putting a little bit of damage on those opposing characters and then hiding them behind something like a Minnie Mouse, Queen of Hearts is going to give you some card draw. The last card in the deck, this is another card I went back and forth on, and again, didn't intend to play a bunch of Moanas, but we have Moana of Motunui, a 5-cost inkable 1/6 stat line questing for 3, which seems really bad. And whenever this character quests, you may ready other princess characters they can't quest for the rest of this turn. I think this is a super interesting card because you can quest with all your princess characters, then quest with Moana, and then ready all those princess characters, and then challenge with them. And the thing that I think is really super neat about how this card synergizes with this deck specifically is that Minnie Mouse is not a princess, so she is not going to be getting readied off of this Moana of Motunui. You're going to keep that bodyguard in position to be able to defend your board, so if your opponent has something that can challenge ready characters that would potentially be getting around a bodyguard that's readied, or if they have something that's going to be able to exert your princess characters to try to challenge them, you're still going to be keeping that Minnie Mouse in the way. So I think Moana is super huge to go ahead and close out the game, but that is primarily what she's going to be for. So again, like some of those other cards we talked about, in some matchups you might just be, there's a reason we're on 2 of them, you might just be inking them. She can be really good. She definitely won me out a match in one instance, again against Amber Steel Aggro. What are you guys' thoughts on this deck in the comments below? Are you playing something similar? That would be kind of crazy to me. We haven't seen a lot of Ruby at all in the meta. I think Ruby's still in a place to be successful if it is combined correctly. I think it does need need to be in more of an aggro position. I think even with Ruby Amethyst, we'll potentially start seeing them lean towards something like Dumbo shenanigans, like every other Amethyst deck is doing right now. There's, I guess, a reason that Dumbos are still $70, but I think he'll go down soon, especially once we start seeing more product in the market. But definitely let me know how you feel about the product. Have you opened a bunch of Dumbos? Have you hit the Enchanteds? Tell me how you're feeling about Fabled and about this new deck list. And as always, when you see those toys, video games, and increasingly expensive shiny Tianas off in the distance, remember, it is not a mirage. You guys have a great day.